Yeehaw, my fellow Pezzes. It's your hobo-haired lad. Somehow I've still got hobo hair, even though I had a haircut. Ugh. Let's go for flatty. I kind of like it though. It's like longer, so it looks cool sometimes. It looks crazy at others. It's one of those hair that you sort of touch it, and like 5% of the time, it'll end up looking good. Okay, I'm not managing to hit one right now. But I'm just chilling. This is my 3rd or 4th day back in civilization, and I thought, you know what, I want to do some more vids. I feel out of the loop, and I'm just really busy with editing other vlog stuff. I'm planning my next trip. I'm coming to America. So I thought, you know what, let's just degrade the quality of the content on this channel, because some is better than none. So screw the editing, I'm just going to do a really laid back chat about 16, because I've been looking at it some more and pondering the possibilities, the potentialities. And the first thing I want to address, so as we get the dynamic with the dominance, each nation has a dominant. I think where these dominants crop up from can be from lowly backgrounds as well as high-born ones, which is an interesting dynamic within itself. In fact, just going on the Square Enix website, I think we actually did get 2 names. Yeah, so I kind of got it from the trailer. Hugo Kupka, the massive hench dude. He is Titan's dominant, and he is a economic advisor. He had a meteoric rise to sudden prominence. It was unexpected because he was originally a nameless foot soldier in the Republican Army. His awakening to being the icon Titan thrust him to the forefront of Dalmekian politics. It was there he used his newfound position as the most powerful man in the Republic to exert influence over both the nation's armies and its policy making, amassing personal fortune in the process. And this next line is very curious. Yet while it is said that a man who has everything wants for nothing, Benedicta Harmon. That's a nice name. I like that name. That's the Garuda lass. Benedicta Harmon will teach him money and power are far from all the world has to offer. So it's great. I love this. The fact that each dominant has different traits, different backgrounds, different personal stories going on, and that's going to influence how they behave, how they act, how indeed they mirror the nation that they're a part of, how they abide within it, the roles they play. And I think like there was that scene where Hugo's just pushing that guy back down. Hugo looks like a no-nonsense motherfucker, as well as a bit of a cheeky scoundrel if he's been amassing mass schmeckles for his personal benefit. But Benedicta Harmon, I mean, let's have a look. She's a cool looking lady. Like, that is such a dope design. Like the feathers around this leathery body type. Oh, I can already feel a thing coming on for Benedicta. Anyone else feeling it? Nice to have a hot blondie. Perfect, thank you mate. Cheers. God, bloody shenanigans going on. There's been packages after packages, and these dogos, they're bloody noisy. Oi, Una, pack your noise in. If anyone doesn't know, Bella, my twins, Sheba, daughter of Leska, Una, Leska. Yeah, I called him Una Leska. But yeah, there's loads of packages coming because I'm turning 30. 30 in a week from now. Oh, this is where life goes downhill. This is where it all ends. This is where arthritis and low performing tabernacle virility issues start kicking in. I'm already at the stage where I can't drink without 2 pints and I've got a hangover. So I'm getting there. I'm feeling it. Frodo, like butter spread over too much bread. Where was I? Oh, okay, yeah, I was hotting on Benedicta. Yeah, it's nice to have a cute blondie. Gentian and Aranea are both raven-haired lasses. I'm just so very, very thirsty for a really great female character. The only other females we sort of know of in 16, we've seen, so we've got like Joshua's mother, but she seems kind of a bit classic medieval woman vibe, a bit prim, bit proper, knows her place. She's a full-blown misogyny role. And then we got Jill. I think it was Jill Warwick? Yes, the little lassie born in the fallen Northern Territories, taken from her homeland at a tender age to become a ward of Rosaria, securing peace between the two warring nations. Now this is curious, because it makes me think, is she Shiva? Just like we see Clive have a big time jump, get older, will we see an older Jill? And could she be Shiva? Because of course there has to be something special about this girl. And the way that she's shot and alongside Clive so often in the trailers, she's going to play a really big role. And what is it that's securing her? Why have Rosaria, Clive and Joshua's nation, secured this girl? And how is that securing, bringing about peace? Of course, it could be many other things. I'll say, what else could it be but the fact that they have another nation's dominant, and that's what's sort of giving them leverage against them. But of course, it could be many other things. And she's ever kind, gracious, and unassuming. But let's see Benedicta's backstory. I've not actually read it. Having emerged from the storm of youth, cold-hearted and ruthless. Oh, my favourite kind of lady. Oh yeah, okay, she is. She's a step on the side of my head with your heels kind of lady. She looks very assassiny. Even the way she's holding like a really sharp looking Garuda feather in like a dagger kind of way. Oh, so cool. So yeah, the Garuda icon, Warden of the Wind, turned her talent for swordplay and subterfuge into a commander of Wallode's elite intelligences. He's on a mission to find the elusive second icon of fire that she crosses paths with, a like-minded Clive, and is forced to face her past. The backstory, diving off, segmenting into other characters, their past and their histories. This, for me, is what Final Fantasy has always been. And I don't want to keep saying things about 15, but of course it's the freshest mainline Final Fantasy, so it's hard not to cross-reference back, to always say things that I want improved from 15. And I don't want it to come across that I'm hating on 15. I loved that game. It brought me to tears, the experience, the pre- and post-game release, everything I went through with the community, everything in that game gave me and I felt and I experienced was monumentally powerful and profound, and it has absolutely secured a place in my heart, and I don't want that to be overshadowed when I make criticisms for the next mainline. But I hope you guys get that, because yeah, with 15, that's where they really placed it on Just Noctis. Just Noctis' story. Holding this cam, it's probably going to be really, really shaky. And that's why they one of the directors said that. They said, well, we wanted this game to be just from Noctis' POV as kind of a way to explain and excuse away why we didn't get the richness of all the other characters in the stories. Now, of course, we eventually got there with the Bro DLCs, the Arden DLCs. I mean, the Ignis, the Prompto, the Gladiators. They were fantastic. Really, really good. Especially episode Ignis. I think that was my favourite of the Bros. But it was DLC, man. It wasn't a part of the main line. And when people kind of hinted that they had a problem with that, they said it's because we just wanted to feel Noctis' POV. Well, that didn't even happen. There were so many times we cut away to scenes and moments and action that was far removed from where Noctis was. So it didn't make sense. That's what really stuck in my mind as Final Fantasy. It's not the story of one person, one character. It's not just, it's the team. The team from 8, from 7, from 9, from all of them, 13, we would shoot off into one character's story. And while, of course, Clive is going to be our main combatant, the fact that he does seem to be collecting these icons, he's going to have to form a personal relationship with them, that's what gives me hope. And it's kind of confirmed there. Me and Clive is going to force her to face her path. But yeah, the fact that she's going after the second icon of fire, this is what's really been playing on my mind since the trailer. Because the first one gave a strong indication that there should be more than one type of fire icon. So we had Phoenix, and they're like, oh, bugger me. There's an Ifrit. A second icon of fire. And I thought that was the twist. But now the new trailer makes it seem that there's 2 Ifrits. And there definitely seems to me there's darker versions of the icons. This is making my little theory noodle, my theory spaghetti started boiling. What's going on here? And a few of you guys, and I don't know if it's confirmed, but a few of you have said Clive is Ifrit. And I didn't think that was the case. Now, of course, he gets branded with the mark of Ifrit. We see Clive when he's older. He looks like he has a claw. The claw. And it, of course, mimics Ifrit's. So, don't know if whenever that experience of Joshua in the form of Phoenix getting, ripped up in front of his brother, that we just haven't seen it yet, that triggers something in Clive. Maybe Ifrit is the first icon that he manages to tap into the power of. Of course, we see it being utilised in combat later, so he definitely gets it. But I don't think he was the OG dominant. Mate, I'm good. Oh my gosh, another delivery. My sister's planning a whole boho party. It's going to be boho. There's going to be 40 odd people and it's all going to be the boho. There's going to be cocktails, spritzers and I don't know. Just give me a bottle of spiced rum and a bag of weed and I'm what? But yeah, I had the impression Clive was not a dominant. But a few said he is the Ifrit. So let's go through that. Let's go through the potential of that. Because it says directly that he's the firstborn son of Rosaria. It was expected he would inherit the Phoenix. Now, the fact that he was expected does make me question, why was he expected? Because it seems like with the Titan, with Hugo, it was a spontaneous awakening. He was just a foot soldier and he woke up to it. So it doesn't seem like it was passed in a lineage way. Like it's an inherited thing, genetically or through bloodline. So what is it that makes Rosaria expectant that one of their nobility will get the Phoenix? An interesting question. Like that they can predetermine it, and predeterminism and fate, I feel like that's going to be playing a huge role. I mean, they've dropped the F word, the F bomb. And fate is seems like a really old cliche plot device, if you will, that's appeared throughout Final Fantasies again and again. But they always find new and unique and interesting ways to play on it, put some new message and spin on it. But yeah, while it does seem like he was fated to, Joshua actually got the Phoenix. So it does seem like their expectations were subverted. Now with what he thought was going to be his path changed, Clive, he dedicates himself to the sword. He goes to Master Blade. His practice pays off when at just 15 years of age, he wins the Ducal tournament and is dubbed the first shield. Hopefully we get some flashback of that. And he's tasked to guard the Phoenix. And with that blessing, with being that guard, he gets lent the Phoenix's power and ability to wield a part of its fire, its flame. I'm wondering if the other dominants can do that, if they can pass off a bit of their power. But alas, as we saw at the end of the first trailer, it all ends in tragedy. He doesn't uphold his duty as the shield. Joshua gets and his career is ended by, and it says on the bio, a mysterious dark icon. We've got that first reference there, dark icon. And a few of you have pointed out like 10-2, and I think the trailer kind of really shows that we've got more maniacal Titan, what looks like darker versions, 2 Ifrits fighting at the end. That just like in 10-2, how there were dark summons, dark Aeons. Where was Aeons in FF10, right? We're going to have dark icons. So it begs the question, first and foremost, where did the dark Ifrit come from? And when that came, was there already an Ifrit in the world? Because again, they seem surprised that there were 2 fire icons. So it doesn't seem like there was any Ifrits. Now what I'm wondering is, when that dark Ifrit tore up Joshua, did he absorb or cage his power in some way? Is Joshua completely dead, or is he simply trapped, waiting to be revived, Phoenix downed by Clive whenever he goes and kills this dark Ifrit? But if it's the case that, yeah, instead of just killing the Phoenix, the dark Ifrit has stolen, sapped, seeped, merged, parasitically infused itself onto Phoenix, but it's still like alive and it's using essentially a part of Phoenix's power. Well, if Clive was already inherited or gifted with a part of Phoenix's power, if that got switched to Ifrit energy, was that a backdoor for Ifrit getting control over Clive? And is that what turns Clive from the fresh-faced, optimistic shield that we see at the start to the dark, hobo-haired, grizzled, campfire-sitting, assassin unit outcast? I can't remember the unit he's a part of, but kind of showing to us that they're undesirables and that they're basically just fodder in war. And I'm wondering if that twist there is what's given him also the claw, the Ifrit claw, and the brand. And that's why he's been sent to kill Shiva. All possible. And it's what in some way could also make Clive an Ifrit. Like maybe he is essentially an Ifrit. He does become a fire icon. And maybe they do something cool with it. Like he has that Ifrit power, but because Ifrit killed his brother, maybe it's something that Clive is suppressing through the whole game. Like he has such a burning hatred for Ifrit. Ooh, see what I did there? That he spends the whole game running from his fate, running from that power, whatever it is, the guilt, the shame of it, any character arc you can imagine. And then what we're seeing at the end, with the two Ifrits fighting, is Clive finally allowing that out, unleashing that, and go toe-to-toe, Ifrit to Ifrit, taking that motherfucker down. No, I'm just jumping ahead into theory land already. I could see, good Ifrit, if you will, Clive Ifrit, take down Dark Ifrit, and then maybe it's a stalemate, maybe Clive's dying, and when Phoenix, a little bit of Joshua, comes back, maybe he revives his brother. I absolutely think Clive is going to die. He's going to do it on this big quest. Jill, I think she's the Shiva, because Jill and Joshua obviously have a relationship, so she's going to want to help in whatever way. And yeah, we're going to see Clive get revived. Either way, when anyone does croak it, I'm going to be very skeptical, because there's a damn Phoenix in the game. And this is a theme I'd really like this game to go into. It's one that I'm really gravitating towards as I just watch it. Like all of these built-up dynamics with the nations, which seems like it's going to be really core to this story. Nations that are thrust into war based on petty things, tribalism, battle for resources, cultural and identity, disputes, disparages. Very low traits that us as a species are still now. I mean, it's so relevant even today, when we see all the crazy stuff that's going on, all the political division, everything in the Middle East, everything with the Ukraine situation right now. I feel like the discussion around national identity, national politics, geopolitics is really hot right now. And I think it would be kind of fitting for Final Fantasy to really dive into that. Kind of bring forward the questions of what is a nation? What are the uses of a nation? Where does it fail? Where does it fall down? But then also, what are the positives of it? How does it unite us, nourish us? How can we be, still have these individual countries and identities, but still recognize that we're members of the same race and the same species, and that learning to find harmony together and how alliances can work, and what the real purpose, if there is any, of why we still have nations and borders. If it is just purely to keep out terrorists and other people with other ideologies and different skin colours, and all their people who are coming from economically disadvantaged, and they're just going to be a burden on our system. Let's fucking discuss that, Final Fantasy, yo. Let's go into that. Let's go into the nature of war itself. And I feel like this is what we could get. This is what we could be seeing. And we could be seeing it in a really interesting way, in how it's also tied into belief and worship and deification, and even mythology and legendary figures. Because these dominants and how it kind of works with 14 is they're inherently tied to the energy of, I was going to say the planet, but an underlying collective consciousness energy. Because, in 14, it's through the worship, it's through a collective pouring an intense amount of their energy and their cognitive will, if you will, that the summons manifest. And 14 did such a good job at, and sometimes twisting it. I don't want to give too much spoilers away for 14, but sometimes if a summon was brought forth from really intense, heavy, dark emotion to like anger or resentment or intense anguish, what we see is sometimes that someone would get stronger and it would get a bit more twisted, it would get a bit more dark. And I feel like that's what we could be seeing. And maybe as these nations are getting deeper and deeper into war, as more and more atrocities are being committed, that these dominants and these icons are going to be a fantastic way to show the consequences of what's happening in the game in real time. And in that way, it's kind of like a tether from the future past. Because I'm wondering, like, with two Ifrits, have we got some timeline stuff going on? Is that like a future timeline, like after this whole Valisthea? I'm trying to say the name. Valisthea. That's the name of this world, yeah, Valisthea. Could it be the case that we're seeing some sort of rupture from, you know, the future part where the war has just spiraled out and the icons that should realistically stand as guardians, as beacons, as something elemental to the planet? Is, in that sense, is something fundamental to the nature of the world. It's divine in that way. And instead of using this great power, you know, that the collective consciousness all kind of contribute towards honoring that element and making sure that it's properly protected and used in the right way. Instead, humans being shitey humans that they are, they're using it for petty squabbles and war and power grabs. And it might not be like a time thing. You know, this is like an Ifrit from the future where everything has just descended into war, and by seeing that dark icon in advance, it's kind of like a pre-warning to the whole war that's going on. Kind of be the alarm bell to all of these nations and the wake-up call to what they're doing, and that could in some way move them towards peace. Because you've got to think of like how much they must ideologically worship their dominant. I think some of it hints of it. I think there's one nation that actually doesn't. I think there was one nation that is really anti-icon and dominant, and that they stand against it. And I think there's another nation that was like really religiously fanatic. Now imagine if you, like, for a religious person, like say you worship Jesus, and like Jesus comes back and he's all light and he's all holy, and then Christians start acting like an arsehole and suddenly dark Jesus. Like Jesus starts getting all like star scourgy from his eyes and stuff and stuff like that. That would be alarming as hell. That would be gut punching, and even more so for the individuals to know that, you know, this thing that was so dear to us, look at what we're twisting it into. This is the cause, you know, cause and effect of our actions, and to see that reflected on the icon, that could be a curious, like, just a base concept that they could spiral out into anything. My other thought was, could we have some like multiverse stuff? I don't usually like to say multiverse or alternate universe because it seems really played now. Like, there's so many films and shows that are using that, and it can just sort of be like a lazy plot device, drama for drama's sake. But I do think that 16 has a unique segue into it, almost because of 14. I'm still convinced that this world could be a reflection, could either be a reflection of 14, like one of the 13 or 14 reflections going on. And there's a few kind of hints that that's possible, because of course, you know, these are icons. We can probably assume, and it's Yoshi P, there's lore and like the fundamental mechanics of 14's universe still apply here. I'm thinking, is Clive a wall in another reflection? Or even not, even in 14 we do hear about other universes. We hear about Omega going to other universes. Even some of Midgard Soma's brood, like the dragons, we hear about them like leaving this particular universe. And now we have this world where each crystal is a kind of meridian point, if you will, chakra meridian point. You've got like the dragon's head, the dragon's tail, the dragon's spine, and you know, these crystals are arguably just massive pockets of ether. So imagine if like this whole world is because a giant dragon died, just deceased, and then all of that ether and collected into certain areas. Oh, this is where we have icons. And maybe the reason why we're seeing dark versions of the summons or a second Ifrit is these are somehow coming across from some other part of the universe. I don't like that idea as much. It is possible. I much prefer the idea that the icons are more of a symbol of what's happening energetically in Velistia. And yeah, that as things are destabilizing, as people's minds are being turned more towards war, because of course in any war, what comes along with it? It comes with propaganda. No nation can go to war without first indoctrinating all of its soldiers and its citizens into hating the other, perceiving these other nations as an enemy, setting up false flags, and how far and how ridiculous the narratives that get spun to nurture that hatred, just so that powerful entities, corporations, governments, monarchies, whatever we have in this game, can basically just play imperialism. And maybe as this, all the collective gets more and more tainted by this war, that starts destabilizing the crystals. I think there was already a hint that the crystals are destabilizing. Oh yes, the Blight. Yes, great powers have grown around each mother crystal, yet now the peace falters as the spread of the Blight. Here we go, there's the plot device for it. Well, not that we really know what a Blight is, but again, like most kind of disease, when you think about like mind-body connection and how much illness can manifest in an individual's body, when their minds turn dark, they're riddled with depression and anxiety. I was even watching some really cool Blinkists, amazing Blinkists, on just how far the mind-body connection goes. I won't go too much of a ramble, but one of the oldest recorded instances of black magic that we ever heard was with Aborigines. They would point a kangaroo bone at somebody and they would shout some nasty incantations. You are cursed, you're ill, your phallus is going to flop off. And lo and behold, to quite an uncanny degree, it would happen. People would drop dead. There was even an instance where somebody was diagnosed with lung cancer. They would die before December, they did, and on the autopsy they found they didn't have lung cancer. Like, what the hell? And it works in the same way. Nocebo and placebo, people who are told with sugar pills and based on even it, like, they would get better from just taking a little pill. Then if they took a larger pill, they'd get even more better. And even if they took then an injection, it was just a saline one. Oh, well, an injection's a bit more serious. They would get even more better. Theodore Roosevelt knew about this way back in the day, and he was the first president to question, is it ever ethical for a doctor to lie to their patients, to tell them they're not as sick as they are, because it's a belief thing. It is a belief thing. Part of our illnesses do come from what we believe, and that's basically what the Blight could be, man. It's what the Blight could be. The other thing is that these crystals are being used for industrialization. The magics, they use them to conjure magics and let the people in the nations live lives of comfort and plenty. Another little segue into a commentary on another aspect of man's nature, his ever insatiable need for more power, more money, more profit, more materialism, more comfort, more. Ego can never ever be satisfied, not on an individual level, not on a collective level. Part of why I went on this cycling trip, it was because I've been on that treadmill where enough is just not enough. Greater luxuries, tastier stuff, more highs, more adrenaline, more excitement, more entertainment. And all the while you're climbing up this never-ending ladder, you don't actually feel any different, because as you climb up, you immediately desensitize to the rung below. Something that once seemed like such a blissful joy, something that you once believed, if I have that thing, oh, my life will be sorted. Everything will be rosy off that, and then you get it, a bit of time passes, and all of a sudden, no, anymore. And then you go up, And then sometimes if you get knocked down a peg or two, I'm rambling so much bullshit, but if you just get knocked back to where you were before, you feel like you've lost something. There was this thing where they interviewed a lot of millionaires and billionaires and asked them what they would consider themselves, at what point they would consider themselves in dire trouble. Like if I went down to my last 5 mil, 1 mil, 10 mil, and some of them hadn't always been wealthy. They hadn't always had that. But that's the problem with materialism. It is an ever-moving goalpost. The goalpost, it will just keep shifting. It will keep following you. That's why there's that really cool story of monks who they don't accept food for more than 1 day. It's 1 day's worth of food. They exchange it for wisdom. If somebody gives them 2, they give them back the other half. Because if I secure myself for tomorrow as well as today, well, why not a week? Why not a month? Or why not a year? It's an extreme scenario, yes. Like, very extreme. But the principle remains. And that's rooted in something still very fundamental to human nature and our survival, and how a lot of our survival mechanics are being hijacked in today's day and age, being weaponized against us and being blown out of crazy proportion the more that we move into having more decadence. And yeah, I feel like all of that is one big awesome pot of commentary that 16 can make, and I feel like we're seeing the slight hints of it, and that the natural order of things is being upset. The Taoism, love it. It's one of my favorite. It's not religions, it's not a philosophy, ideologies, I guess. The Tao is basically recognizing the natural harmony of things, and that when we operate from places of love, compassion, unity, service to others, instead of just a massive fixation of service to self. There's even a part in Taoism that I feel is relevant to this. Bearing in mind it's thousands of years old, so some of the metaphors don't really apply. But Lao Tzu, he said that a nation, what was it? Yeah, he said governing a nation is like cooking a great fish. Too much handling of it and you'll spoil it. He also made other comments like if a government treats its citizens with suspicion and like they're criminals, well then that's exactly how they act. Deceitful and like criminals. And yeah, he would make commentary on the collective and something like a nation, but also how that rooted in our individual lives, our individual journeys, because they're a reflection of each other. And in this pondering, in this contemplation that he did, he recognized not a God. He doesn't ever talk about God. Tao is just a word he ascribed to it, because whatever the fuck else we're talking about. But he recognized there's a natural harmony of things. There's a way to be in harmony with oneself, with the natural world around us, and how we organize as a group. And I personally, while turning very esoteric and hippie these days, I always do feel like Final Fantasy always has had a spiritual conversation to it, as well as just a political and a personal and a human spirit one, like the strength of human determination, all these other themes that are so relevant and cool to all of us. But the spiritual one, I feel, has definitely always kind of been there. And if these crystals and these icons start turning into anti-icons, dark icons, anti-ether, a blight, however they decide to frame it, and that essentially what are the gods? Because it seems like the summons are still kind of in that deified godly position. You start seeing them go dark as well. And even that's curious as well, because Hinduism, they have 330 million gods and have that many different gods. So of that 330 million, many of the same gods, they have multiple forms. Shiva, for example, he has his really peaceful, like blissed out meditating version. He also has his like ecstatic, crazy dance. So it's supposed to represent the vibratory nature of the universe. Everything is energy, everything is frequency, vibrating. This is what Shiva's dance was there to represent. You've got a version of him with the cobra, drinks the poison of it. Can't remember what that one represented. Then you've got Shiva the destroyer. You've got the dark one, the one who destroys galaxies and universes and is wholly, utterly terrifying and terrible. And that's what I love about kind of the more Eastern religions, is their deities, they're not so singular and fixed. They have these iterations to them. And Norse mythology, the Greek pantheons. All of their deities were wholly capable of being divine and wonderful, but also as equally destructive and tyrannical. And yeah, maybe we'll see that in 16. I'm certainly really hoping that within that dialogue of nations, that because each dominant, so Benedicta, Hugo, don't really know, Joshua, whoever the other ones are going to be, that yeah, Clive forms a personal relationship with them, and that these individuals maybe will have to rise up, be better, be bigger than the nations or the political agendas that they're born through, the natural biases that they have, that Clive, if he is indeed the child of fate, that's really what his gift is to kind of de-indoctrinate. Is anti-indoctrinate. Denoctrinate. I'm getting further away. I'm going to go with unprogram or unplug these dominants from the matrix of belief systems that they may be embroiled in. And I think in that process, we could get some really, really cool insight on some dope themes that are really fresh and new and relevant, and that we've kind of not explored in Final Fantasy for a while. Well, in whatever capacities that we have, go at it again, make it stronger, because these be the times, man. These be the times. So there we go, guys. Just some random thoughts, quite literally the next day after I've watched the trailer. I'm going to dive in deeper, of course, try to create something that's more of a theory. This isn't more of a theory, this is more just a hope and a random speculation. But let me know, guys. None of my theories are usually ever just off of my own noodle. It's usually a collective of inspirations. Anything you guys have noticed, no matter how crazy or unsupported it is, these are early days. We've only had 2 trailers, so throw it out there. Just flap it out all on the table, my friends. What random sparks of thoughts or possibilities are coming through your mind? Any little things you notice, let me know in the comment section below. Because yeah, just like I'm hoping for the theme of this game, it's our collective insights, it's our collective cooperation. But we start moving closer and closer to the truth. The truth. Or even if we don't, well, in this case, the truth of what Final Fantasy 16 will actually be. Even if we move further away, I don't give a damn, because I just love pre-mainline Final Fantasy release periods. I love this period of time. I'm so glad we're back. Let me know if you are early boarding the hype train. I've already got my ticket. It's a great spot, one of the front carriages. Feel free to come and join me, and I will see you guys on the next video. Kupo. I've missed Kupo so much. Go again. Kupo. 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 Oh, Kupo! Oh, I think that was the one. That may be the one. Want to give it a go, Una? Come on. Kupo. Good. Clap better. Go on, one more. Yeah, that's the one.